everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you, Tanya, for the wonderful, lovely introduction. And after that, my 4-year-old told me that the reason he wants to become a dad because he can then drink wine. I don't know, right? I thought that was funny. Yeah. So this talk is about compilers. Any compiler fans today? Oh yeah, that's good. Okay, I'm going to make the rest of you compiler fans in the next 10 minutes. All right. So this is I'm going to talk about a project that I did like 5 years ago. So just to set the stage, so this term is like, we don't really use this term, right? It's not a common term. But I think I like it. It has a nice parallel with the technical debt, right? So when I say strategy debt, the reason that this term is there, you could think of it like a business strategy, product strategy, and technical strategy that drills down to technical architecture, right? So if you detect a business strategy or product strategy and your organization fixed it, but then if they didn't allow you to change your technical stack architecture, and that's your leverage. And that's what we did in my company. So I'm going to tell you that story, right? So this project is about Ballerina. Any Ballerina users? Anyone heard of Ballerina at least? OK, perfect. Right. So yeah, Ballerina is an open source programming language designed and developed by WSO2 primarily, right? It's a programming language, general purpose programming language designed and optimized for enterprise integration. Right? I'll talk about that a little later. We started this project back in 2016, and we did the first stable release in 2022. So it took a long time for us to get there. So this is like not a smooth journey. We had several challenges. I'll talk about some of them today. So if you look at the evolution of this language, we started this as sort of next generation enterprise integration language. Our previous product, which is like a low-code drag and drop tool, where when you drag and drop, it creates a nice diagram, graphical syntax, right? And then when you serialize that, we serialize into XML. Right? So when people start using this previous product, what we have noticed is whenever they start this product, they always goes to the low-code editor. But whenever they whenever they are familiarized with this product, they always tend to write XML. So we all know that XML is terrible as a language. So it's not friendly at all. So we started this project to figure out what can we do better. Can we come up with a developer-friendly language for this? So that's how it started, right? But in 2017, as any project, we broadened the scope. We said we want to become a general-purpose programming language optimized for integration. That is 2017. But in 2018, we even broadened the scope, and we said we want to become the #1 programming language of choice if you're writing cloud-native applications. That's like very ambitious. Right? It's not easy. But you know what happened is we never get to change the technical design. The initial compile architecture, we never get to change that. We stayed in the same initial design that we did. We did certain optimizations, but the overall architecture was the same. But by 2019, we hit a roadblock. A lot of issues came. We started seeing a lot of issues. Some are from internal users across WSO2 teams, and some are our customers, right? And then this is like a tip of the iceberg. So this is called death by 1,000 paper cuts, right? If we keep this happening, it's not going to end well. So we thought we need to do something here. So we analyzed all these issues, and we identified certain patterns. Most of the issues are related to our VSCode plugin or the IDE plugin, right? Some of the issues were like poor suggestions performance. When you hit like a dot in your VSCode, suggestions came very late. And then the program the compilation stops at the first error, right? So when you fix it and you compile, you get another error. When you fix it, you compile another error, right? So these are all issues that users have reported. We did certain fixes, but none of them really fixed the underlying issue. So myself and another colleague, we started looking into this. We sort of wanted to manage our manager. You know what that means, right? We didn't want them to come and say, look, we have an issue. But proactively, we said we have an issue, and we are going to come up with a proposal, and here's the proposal, right? But before that, we want to figure out what's going on. Then we form a small team. We analyze. We look around. We said, this has to be a problem that other people have solved. All the other mainstream languages, they must have solved this problem, right? It's not new. So in that process, we realized what we have is like a traditional compiler.
And if you're enjoying this, LeadDev has a ton more to offer.
I'm quite fond of the articles.
I feel like LeadDev blogs are my favorite, and it's been really, really useful to kind of create these more meaningful connections as well.
If there's something you're struggling with as an engineering leader, there's a pretty good chance that LeadDev has published something that addresses it.
So make sure you check out leaddev.com.
When you read all the compiler books, this is what you're going to implement, and that's what we did, because we were new to compilers at that time, right? So we read all the books, and then we implemented, and we ended up in a traditional compiler. So idea behind the traditional compiler is source code in, your compile code out. It's like a black box. For every keystroke, you have to run the compiler. Because when you type in an editor, literally in every keystroke, you have to run the compiler to get the errors, to get the suggestions, and all that. We don't normally think about that, right? But that happens underneath in IDE plugins. So then we looked around, what can we do better? What could be like a new version of this compiler? Any guesses? Yeah, language server is one part, because we need the language server to feed suggestions from the compiler to the IDE, right? But then we had to change the whole compiler to support the language server. It's very complicated. We wanted a modern compiler design, right? So when you read this, we started looking at Roslyn compiler. Have you heard about Roslyn? That is the project or the code name of the new C# compiler that the .NET guys have done. So they have gone through the same problem. In 2013 or 2010, I don't remember, they did the rewrite of their compiler, and they open sourced it, and they named that as Roslyn compiler. So there's a nice talk done by C# language designer about this new modern compiler architecture. So the fundamental idea behind this is these compilers, it act as a library. Libraries has an API, so you can control each stage of the compiler. For example, when you do parsing, lexing and parsing, right, then it outputs the syntax tree. Then you can continue to the next stage, which is, let's say, semantic analyzer. Then you get the semantic model, right? Then likewise, you can advance the compiler one stage at a time. So as a VSCode plugin implementer, you are in control. So that's basically the big idea, right? But as you can see, so we create a proposal. That was a slide deck back then. We said we have a big idea. These are the current issues we have. What we have is a traditional compiler. We need to make it modern, and this is how we are going to do it. And this could be the end result, right? So we get a proposal. This is one of the original sketches that I did on my iPad, and I was so lazy and put the same. I didn't draw a professional one, but it worked, right? They accepted it. Anyway, so the way we did it, if you look at it from like a top level, it feels like a Big Bang implementation, like a complete rewrite. But the way we did it is like we did a part-by-part translation. First, we replaced the old parser. We had to write some rich code. and then we release the compiler. Similarly, we replace each part of the compiler at a time, and then finally, we replace the whole compiler. This is like this strangler fig pattern, right? That's exactly what it is. But when you look at from the top, it's like a Big Bang release. Yeah. So I think this project made our developers happier. Even our internal teams, and one more thing, this architecture, we added this capability to do meta-programming, where you can write compile extensions, so users can write code. As a compile extensions, you can read the code, and you can take decisions. For example, in Ballerina, you have these high-level abstractions called services, and then you can bind services into protocols. All the XML, JSON are part of the type system, right? So as an extension, compile extension, you can read the user's code. Then you can generate, for example, if the user has written an HTTP service, you could generate OpenAPI specification. Likewise, you can emit certain things out of the compiler, not just the compiled code. Yeah. So with this project, this is what we learned, right? So we identified that the management changed the strategy, but we said, hey, you change the strategy, but we wanted to change code as well. Otherwise, it's not going to work, right? And then we managed our manager. We didn't let them come and say what to do. And we told them this is what we are going to do, right? That worked. And then we evolved the compiler, right? So I'll leave you with this quote. I saw this in one of the YouTube videos. I think I like it. I think it's the origin of this quote is from this movie called Field of Dreams, 1989, right? So that quote is, if you build it, he will come. But this is like a different variation of that. It says, if you build it, they may come or may not come. But if you don't build it, nobody can come, right? So I like it. All right. I hope you're going to have a relaxing weekend after 2 days of learning. And thank you for being such a wonderful audience. Thank you.